Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have an amazing guest, Miss Dominique Top. How are you, Dom?
Hi, I'm splendid. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Very, very good. I'm obviously, looking at the autumn leave, you see, because now we're getting to the end of 2020. And it looks like you're kind of somewhere intergalactic today.
Yes. I've decided that I don't like the world anymore, so I'm just floating in space until it's safe to come back down again. Now it's. I think we can all agree that I would love 2020 to be over, and I also want to see the terms and conditions for 2021 first before I agree to anything. So.
I actually saw. I don't know if you've seen this infographic or this meme. It shows a tidal wave for 2020, and then it shows a bigger tidal wave for 2021. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Like surfing the waves.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first couple of months of lockdown I was in a constant state of nervousness, like anxiety. Like I'm a people person, but I was actually afraid to go outside, even though, like I'm not in a risk category, and that's it's weird for somebody who likes being around people to not want to be around people. It's just about that messed something in my brain.
You seem very tactile, or are you just saying you just like hanging out with people?
No, obviously I'm very grateful for my other half to also be at home now. But I mean, he is actually, since a couple of weeks, he's been summoned back to the office twice a week, all COVID secure. But yeah, since I joined Hashicorp, we don't have an office. We have one big headquarters in San Francisco, and this is now I'm now working from home, so I don't have to worry about going back to an office or anything like that. It's
it's a very impressive intergalactic home. So you see, everybody's jealous now. But people obviously listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts can't see that obviously Dom is actually floating through space. Obviously, Tim Peake last week was released his latest book, Limitless. I think that his space mission to the International Space Station. Now we've actually got Dom, you see, going on a way to the space station as we speak. So there you go. You're going to hit first on the G&T Sessions podcast. So great to see you. And I know that you've been a busy girl, busy lady, as ever.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we originally met a few years ago in the London tech scene that is quite vibrant, and I know that you've been pretty intrinsically involved in quite a lot of very big communities, actually, which I'm always impressed with the size of the communities. How big a communities have you supported in the last few years in London? It's quite large, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess I think the Docker meetup is about 5,000 members. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but most of the groups that I'm involved with are about that size. But on the other hand, I also just am friends with most of the larger DevOpsy meetups organizations. So, I'm just trying to be a good community member and try to help out where I can.
The thing is, I think the cute thing about you see, is I think you've got your own hashtag, you see, haven't
you? Yes, a friend of mine, Mark, coined hashtag run by Dom and hashtag not run by Dom, and it was hilarious because he did a talk at Docker London last September. It's in the before times, and he was explaining about what he did. It's like, I organized London DevOps, and I organized this and this, and but it's he put a picture of me on like huge on screen. It was at Condé Nast offices, and I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but they have this huge video wall,
like a huge pit, isn't it? Like a bit like a Colosseum.
Yeah. So they've got this huge video wall. My face was on it. with hashtags, like if you don't feel like any of the other meetups apart from this one is living up to the standards that you become accustomed to when attending any of Dom's events, please use the hashtag not run by Dom in on any of your social media platforms to make your concerns known, and we'll see what we can do about it. And that's been taking on its own life. So so like attending London DevOps, basically every time Mark hosts it, he will have hashtag not run by Dom in the opening slides.
But I think my understanding is that it's been between 10 and 15,000 people are in quote marks virtually touched or meetup touched by Dom, by the hashtag Dom. So I'm honoured that you're on this testing today, because I know you are what I would call a tech literati in London. Everybody knows Dom, or if they don't know Dom, then they're missing out. So, I mean, in terms of what you do when you're not doing nocturnal activities that involve beer and pizza and hummus, well, what gets you up in the morning then these days?
Well, as I said, mentioned before, I recently started as a solutions engineer at Hashicorp, which has been pretty cool. This is also the first time I have the word engineer in my job title, which is also pretty cool. It's that really. I mean, obviously, the things that I really enjoy doing, again, in the before times, are not as much of a thing right now. So I mean, everybody will have their hobbies, but like, because most of the things that I like to do involve other people, I have to figure out a way of doing that by myself or in the comfort of my home. But work has been getting me up in the morning. I've been playing more video games. I've been, I mean, don't know if I've got anything else to do. I've been going for the occasional walk with my other half. Try to social disty COVID approved meet some people. So it was a bit nicer when it was still warm outside, obviously, but it's not sure when this is going to be released, but this is recorded in October, and I'm looking at this very, very grim, grey, foggy outside. But a couple of months ago, I would cycle somewhere, meet a friend in a park, and have a little picnic or having some drinks, and that was kind of nice. I am quite concerned, not just for my mental health, but for other people's as well. Like going into the winter, I don't want to make it too grim, because I'm always I always try to see the beauty in things and try to see, try to stay positive.
Always look on the bright side of life, as you say.
Yes, it's been a challenge over the past 6-8 months, but there's always a bright side. So it's
So
not quite what you asked, but
you mentioned that you now are calling yourself an engineer, and that's something that you have not experienced before. Was that something you thought you would ever be, or is it something? Are you pleased that you've now called an engineer, or what's you kind of seem to react in a certain way to that when you said that?
Yes, well, it's. I personally feel that this is. I hope this is kind of an inspiring story, but I've been interested in technology for ages. So after I finished, let me just take you on a journey for a moment. I'm going to go back a little bit further into.
We are flying through space with you, so that's fine.
So when I was 17. No, I'm not going to. Well, it was kind of when I was 17. No, it's
This is going to be the first singing episode ever. Yeah.
So I have always been into the music and technology. So I used to, when I went to uni for sound engineering and vocals. So I am actually a singer, but I also know how to do sound engineering. So I've always had some interest in that side of technology. After I finished uni, I started working for an Apple premium reseller called iCenter, or called IM Store at the beginning, but I worked there for about 4.5, 5 years.
Okay.
And that was great. Like that was my first real job out of uni. And
was this before Apple was cool? Then, or was Apple cool?
I personally think that Apple was cooler then because Steve Jobs was still alive. But like, that's a conversation for a different story, but for a different time. But it was nice because at the time I was quite interested in Apple because they yeah, you know, like the iPod were just a thing, and the white MacBooks, and that was kind of like the back in those days. So after uni I needed a job, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Because you know, as a musician, it is very difficult to have a job in music if you want to have a regular income. So I was like, okay, well, what are the other things that I like? Well, I like technology. So okay, I don't really want to work at like some, I don't know, some regular retail shop. So there was an eye center in my hometown. So I just went there. I was like, hi, I would like a job, please. One job, please. Yeah, so I started there, and it was fun because it basically allowed me to talk about tech all day and help people. And I've been people who have met me before, people who have heard me speak about this stuff before will have known because this is a part of my journey. So I've told this many a times. But being at iCenter was basically the start of everything. So I'm the type of person that wants to know everything about everything before I can do my job properly, right? So it's you know, like every single shred of anything that we sold at the time was something that I knew about, and knowing more about like how computers work, and like looking over the shoulder of my service technicians, and you know, try to like fix things myself every so often, even though I wasn't certified, but still, it was just fun. Like it's nice being able to just like, you know, like have a discussion about
to know your stuff. Then basically, that's what you're saying.
Yes. But the biggest fun part of it was that people would come into your shop, and obviously especially in those days, were like, why would I need an Apple computer if I can do the same thing for X amount of money on Windows, or can build my own machine. Now, I liked Apple, I still do. To some extent, but at the time I'm kind of pragmatic about things. So it's kind of, well, if you like, the reason why I liked Apple at the time is like you don't have to think about it, it just works. You know, like if you don't want to have to worry about like, oh, does this hardware piece of component work with this hardware component, and then like
the
potentially blow.
Yeah, compatibility. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're building something and the spec is wrong, then you can you know, lose a lot of money. Anyway, so like having that conversation with people, being pragmatic about it, that was just something that I enjoyed doing. Like other times people come into my shop and say like, okay, well, I would like one computer, please. Okay, well,
but there is a thing called have you heard about the Frankintosh? Is it called the Frankintosh?
Hackintosh.
What is it called? Hackintosh.
Yeah. So that's basically building your own machine and then running the Mac operating system. Yeah, they're making it very difficult to keep on doing that. It was a lot easier around Snow Leopard, which is 10.6. So we're now at 10. I don't know.
That's really, I mean, really when you know the actual release level of Mac OS.
Oh yeah, I was like, up until I think I left iCenter when just after Mountain Lion was released. I think that was 2011. Don't quote me on this. It was my job for years, and it's not been my job for years equally as much. So, but yeah, it was just like all about talking about tech and helping people. So people come in like, hey, I've got this issue, I want this. And then like asking more about like, okay, well, what do you want to do with it? What kind of problems would you like it to solve? And then like based on that conversation, saying like, well, you're saying this, this, and this, maybe this would be a good idea. Or you're saying this, this, and this, maybe that would be a good idea. Rather than just saying like, hey, this is the most expensive machine. Here you go. Buy AppleCare.
Buy a Mac Pro. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been more about like, okay, well, how can I actually help you do the things that you want to do? And that's been a guiding principle throughout my whole career, really. As well as being a part of the community. How can I help other people get to the place that they need to be at? So after I finished, or after I left iCenter, I started working for a recruitment company, and I used to be very.
That's quite a change, though, isn't it? To move from an Apple reseller to a recruitment company. Is that?
Yes.
Because I know. I mean, one of the things that you didn't mention, I don't think, was because obviously I think that I detect a slight accent.
Oh yes, I am from the Netherlands.
Maybe that wasn't the country that you were doing that stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, I am from the Netherlands. You are correct. I am also trying to mask my accent as much as possible. So some people said, why? Because I don't like the Dutch accent. This is also not a story that I want to go into right now. This is a whole different. This is going to turn into a rant, and I'm in a good mood now. So, but yeah, I was in the Netherlands.
You got your bicycle when you came from Holland or Netherlands to the UK.
Yes, I did.
You know,
you've seen it, right?
Yeah. If you're Dutch, you've got to bring your bicycle with you, because that's like essential. That's like your clothes, you know. Oh, where's the bike? Yeah.
100%. This has been my bike has been my savior during lockdown, because like I wanted to avoid the tube as much as possible. So it's like I'm just gonna cycle places. That was great. I digress. Where was I with my story? Yeah. So I started working for a recruitment company. Sorry, I also have ADHD, so my stories go a bit backwards. So anyway, the reason why
what I was saying was I was saying that you changed from doing an Apple reseller, working for an Apple reseller, into a recruitment role. So that's quite
a change.
It's a change. I suppose I was trying to understand what the trigger was for that. Why did that happen?
So after about 5 years of working for iCenter, it's still retail. So I wanted to have a job where I didn't have to stand on my feet all day, and I wanted a career, basically. So I wanted to not die a death on the retail floor. So I was like, okay, I feel like I can do more than this. I want to do better. I want to grow. I want to go places. I've always been interested in doing bigger things. Like so that's kind of my biggest raison d'être.
There's an evolution. There's an evolution from
So I went on LinkedIn, and mind you, in the Netherlands, LinkedIn was just a bit of a thing. And one of my best friends said, like, hey, maybe you should add your profile to LinkedIn. So what the hell is LinkedIn? Yeah, it's a professional networking site. Like, okay, so it's basically Facebook for professionals. Yeah, pretty much. Like, okay. So how do I do this? So I changed my profile. I said like, I think I would like something, I don't know, business development or account management, or the stuff that I thought were reasonable transferable skills from the stuff that I've done over the past 5 years. So I got approached by a recruiter, saying like, hey, I may have got something for you, as recruiters do. And I was like, well, okay, well, what's recruitment? Because, I'm a musician and I have not been in that side of it. I have no idea what it is. It's not that prevalent in the Netherlands, as far as I can tell, or at least in my circles. So I've got the candidate, you've got their clients, and then basically I have to match them and like try to help them find jobs. It's like, so basically you're saying, because it's an IT recruitment business, you're saying that I can still talk about technology all day and help people. Yeah, pretty much. It's like, okay. So I was obviously excited, because I was like, I can still do the things that I've been doing over the past 5 years. So I joined them. It was pretty much a no-brainer. Basically, they offered me right after my after the third interview or something, like, please come work for us. Like, sure. So it wasn't quite as I expected. However, the reason why I decided to do recruitment was because I considered it something that would help me down the line. Like, I didn't think that recruitment was going to be my my career path.
Yeah, your destiny.
Yeah, it was just a stepping stone. I've always considered it that way, and I believe that my employers have known about this. I've always been expressing interest in wanting to do more technical things. But yeah, my recruitment company, first recruitment job, basically said, you're now in charge of DevOps contracts. This is your vertical. So I was like, what's DevOps? Which has been a question that many people have asked over the past 10 years.
A lot of people are still asking that question, are they?
Yes.
Kim, we need you on this episode. What is DevOps? Oh, no, sorry, Patrick Dubois, actually. Patrick, are you there? What is DevOps? Help us.
Yes, exactly that. So basically my colleagues were like, I don't know, figure it out yourself. So, okay. And that was interesting because, as I said, obviously already an inclination towards tech, and like calling people, I like people. So I was speaking to people and I was saying my first day, actually, look, you're allegedly a DevOps engineer according to your CV. I just joined this business. I've got assigned this vertical. Could you tell me in your own words what you think DevOps is? Well, that was an interesting journey because I got like the first 20 conversations were different definitions. I was like, hold up a minute.
I would say, do you have a definition of it, and did you get lots of variation?
Yeah. 100%. It was really interesting because that did give me a sort of trigger, as in like, okay, well, people are obviously passionate about it, but there's a portion that overlaps. But there's a lot of it outside of it. It's like there's this Venn diagram. Like in the middle is roughly the same, but there's loads of things that are being said that are not the same. And I thought that was something interesting. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make it my mission to completely understand what it is, or how how to use this, because as I said before, I want to know everything about everything before I can do my job properly. And I felt the same way in that recruitment job. But what I didn't account for was that I was going to speak to a lot of people that I feel are like me. Like, I consider myself incredibly nerdy. And it's so much so that one of my colleagues at the time was saying like, oh, you are like an undercover nerd. It's like, why undercover? Yeah, because you don't look like one. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but on your profiles it says "talk nerdy to me."
Yeah, yes. It's been that way for years.
And then also there's another hashtag which says, I mean, you're one of your other hashtags is, what is it? DevOps Dommy. Is that right?
Yes.
So you see, you've actually embraced it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like
well, that's kind of how people know me now. But the reason why that term was coined was because at my recruitment business, as I was focusing on DevOps recruitment, everybody who was like, who had a bunch of different offices in different places, they started asking me questions about certain technologies because I understood them. And I was like, well, you can ask me, but ask the people that you're working with. Like, like people asking me about configuration management, people asking me about automation in general. Like I did a little session on what Scrum and Agile was, and like Kanban. And it was strange because I was like, I'm not the expert here. I'm just giving you secondhand information. But apparently that was, to them, was like, oh my God, you're like DevOps Dom. Ha ha ha. So so that was ages ago, and I just run with it.
Everybody's going to have their own hashtag, and you've got a few already.
Yeah. So that was fun. So obviously I took from that job what I wanted, which was knowledge about like how environments work and how software development is, how cloud infrastructure works and all that kind of stuff. A really high level, and because of that. I went, after a year or so, I went to London for a week office exchange. That we had an office here in London, and I really wanted to work in London for a week because why not? And
then you never went back.
Well, kind of. So in that first year of my first recruitment job, one of my colleagues was like involved in a meetup, but basically one of the meetups in I think it was a reactive programming meetup or something in Amsterdam, and they approached my colleague to ask like, hey, do you guys want to sponsor the meetup? So what we did, we didn't get much budget from the company, and Denise asked me. I'm not sure if you will ever be watching this, but it was actually a fun thing to do. Colleague Denise, she asked me like, "Hey, do you want to help me sponsor this meetup?" Okay, well, how much do we get budget-wise? Like, well, it depends on what we want to do. Do we want to actually buy the food, or do we want to make it ourselves? So we did. So we made food for 30 people, and I asked one of my former. I used to work at this like small restaurant during uni, and I asked for those shaving dishes, and I literally had like a whole buffet that we made the day before, and the people were like, "Oh, this is nice. Where'd you get this from?" I was like, "Oh, we made this yesterday," and people were like, whoa, really? And that was quite interesting because that was my first, I think the first ever meetup I ever went to.
And that was in Amsterdam.
Yeah. And that was interesting. Yeah, like I was talking to random people, and these were the same candidates that we were speaking to on the phone, but in person. And they're just having random talks. And like it was this guy who was wearing like the Star Wars t-shirt, and I was obviously pretty big Star Wars nerd, so I was like having a conversation about random stuff, and I was like, okay, interesting. So at some point I just figured out that I was more inclined towards the engineers that I worked with than I was a recruiter, and I've always felt that way.
Right.
Anyway, so I had my office exchange week, told the director there, like, hey, what do I need for permanent transfer to this office? And 3 months later I was here, and I never looked back. This was almost 4 years ago. So I changed jobs twice when I was in London. So after I moved here, the first 6 months were at my previous job at that first recruitment company. And then I started working for another recruitment company that were only focusing on DevOps. I didn't know why, but basically anyone messaged me on LinkedIn saying like, hey, I'm loving your DevOps experience, and all the recruiters. And I was like, okay, well, go away. But there was one particular recruitment guy who had an interesting story. So had a chat with them and worked there for 2.5 years. So that was interesting because they allowed me to actually grow more into the person that I am today. And for that, I'll always be grateful.
But this is the thing is, I think that when there was a time when we met in the City of London with Matt Saunders, and I remember I'd been boxing and I'd broken my finger. And the funny thing was that you took a photograph of my hand, which was broken, and then you put it on Twitter with all these hashtags, and it started going like trending on Twitter. It was like it was hilarious. There was all those strange. To this day, I've never had anything like that happen to me before, so that was very, very memorable.
That was actually the night that I met my other half.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes. No, that was funny. It was London DevOps November 2017.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's been interesting to say the least. Like when I moved to England or London, I was like, okay, meetups in the Netherlands are really cool, but I'm just going to see how the meetup scene in London is, because I moved here, didn't have any friends, don't know anyone. I had a job obviously, but like, what do you do when you move to a new city? I thought like, you know what, maybe I should just go to meetups. So I'll have a plan. I'll get to learn more about the technologies that I work with, or at least the people I work with, and I get to meet people that have similar interests to me. But the thing is, in the UK and technically in the IT industry, being a recruiter is bad. No, recruiters are bad salespeople, blah blah. So I knew this, and I still sometimes feel a bit weird about it, but there was a really long time that I didn't tell anyone that I was a recruiter, because not that I was ashamed of it, because I do think that I was good at it because of
what did you say you did?
I didn't say anything. If basically no, I'm serious. Like the first 6 months of my being here, I went to London DevOps. I went to DevOps Exchange. I went to the Kubernetes meetup. I think I went to the Docker meetup a couple of times before I started running it. I went to Cloud Native. I went to literally everything. And I just didn't say anything for the first couple of times. It just kept on going. And I started recognizing some people. And at some point when I just started having conversations with people, I would ask them like, oh, so what kind of projects are you working on? Like, what are you doing? Like, how long have you been doing it? Like, asking people, because I want to know more about what they do. And I felt like as soon as I tell them I'm a recruiter, the conversation's over. Because A, I'm a woman. B, I'm not a techie, or at least they will consider me not a techie. And C, it's, see the previous two. So.
Oh, so what? But no, it's interesting what you just said though. It's because you're talking about you believe there were biases.
Yeah, they are. 100%. I mean, not now, but like at the time, like I felt like
you perceived there were going to be biases towards you, but then I mean, your journey's changed obviously in the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? So if you think about it,
yeah, I mean,
by the time you probably had a perception that was a kind of a, or did you experience that reaction? Is that what you're saying?
I did actually experience it.
Okay,
and that's why I stopped doing it. Like there were a couple of people who were like, "Oh, you're a recruiter," and then I just fuck off. And I was like, well, I'm not here to recruit you. Don't worry about it. But I mean, it's basically because I felt like I didn't know the right things. I didn't have the same job as them, and I didn't feel like like there was only men there most of the time. So, and most of the other women there would be marketing or sales. So.
It's interesting if you go back to your so is there something happened there that with your your Apple experience where you the example of you were looking over the shoulder of the service engineer, you were doing your own maintenance on some of the repairs.
Yeah, but the thing is,
you kind of decided to go all in on learning the actual tech that you were then involved in that kind of segment or that kind of market. Is that right? Is that what? Cause that's what I feel like I observed with you over the last few years. You've gone all into that particular domain area, and you've learned a shed load of stuff. Is that right?
Yes. But the thing is, like, people only really started trusting me, or not, I'm saying trust, but like people started like seeing me for me after, like understanding that I actually do know what I'm talking about, and that I actually do care about the community, and that I actually do understand more than they think that I did, and that was like the moment when I figured out like, oh, I don't have to prove myself constantly. I still sometimes have that, but like yeah, like I at some point I have an AWS certification. I'm currently studying for the Essentials of Linux System Administration for the Linux Foundation. I'm planning on doing a Terraform and a Vault Associate certification, and after that, I'm planning on doing a Kubernetes certification. So, like, I'm getting
a load of badges on your arm.
Not on my arm. I've got enough badges on my arm, but it's no, it's but that's the thing. Like, my surroundings enable me, or I made it so that my surroundings enable me to do the things that I want to do. Like, I obviously struggle because I'm not going to lie. When I started this job, I've been wanting to work here for years. Now I'm actually here. Like, it's a great. Hashicorp is a great company, but when I started trying to build my first ever website, it was like a year and a half ago or something. I struggled because my other half obviously is a DevOps engineer. So I met him at a DevOps meetup. So he was like one of those people who tried to, the first conversation I had with him was like him trying to like test my geek cred.
Really?
And obviously, well, kind of. It's like, he wanted to know that if I knew certain things. And I was like, I like this. I'm just going to like show you how. It was just a different conversation because obviously there was some.
Like a techie date.
Kind of. Yeah, again, it's another story for another time because I don't think he likes it very much to talk about it too much. But
yeah.
Well, no, well, just nerdy in general. So, anyway, where was I with my conversation? Yes, so because I have got him at home, because we've been living together for years now, he helped me with my first ever website, and he's been doing system stuff since he was like 12. So it's just
right.
So he knows he can do this with his eyes closed, basically. Yeah. So basically, he's like, okay, so what do you want to do? It's like, I want to try making a website. So I have a domain. I used to have a website for my DJ, stuff. But I still have the domain, but the website itself was, I don't know why, but it's not there anymore. So like, I want to change that. So okay, well, so we started like playing around a little bit with code and like saying like, oh, so how would you, what would you do next? And then I try to figure out how it works, and I got so overwhelmed, and I was literally like, as soon as I started figuring out that I knew so little about actually doing the thing, I can talk about like how different technologies plug in together for ages, but like actually doing the thing, that was an experience and a half.
I was like another
So
level. Yeah.
yeah, I was really concerned. Like I know nothing, absolutely nothing, and I took to Twitter as you do. I'm very very grateful for my Twitter following, but it's like, okay, y'all, I feel this way. Why? I feel terrible. I know nothing. And then like loads of people went to respond saying like, I've been doing this for 30 years. I still feel that way. Or yeah. And I was like, okay, well, if other people feel this way, then I probably could feel a bit less worried about this.
Mm.
And that took a while, but that obviously calmed me down a little bit.
But that's what they're saying to you, is that actually when you, because I spoke to a few, or know a few, obviously people who develop things. You know, being a developer or even being a tester is actually quite creative. You know, you got to be. So I suppose it links back to your, you know, your kind of musical and creative side.
Yeah.
But then when you're faced with a screen full of code and you're trying to debug it, or you're trying to work out what's going wrong with it, it does actually, the rubber hits the road then, you see, isn't it? Because you've got to try and work out, well, actually what logically is happening on it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, 100%. But it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of is trying to understand what everything is, what every shred of code means. Like I can see words, but you know, like I understand how logically something should work. But like actually translating that to code is like, okay, well, that's just the thing that I struggle with the most at the time. But like, yeah, just like one of the reasons why I decided to go for a Linux course is that most of my interests lie not within the software development side of things, but more on the infrastructure and Opsy side of things. Still, you'll still build stuff and like try to automate things, but it's I feel that's more up my street, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's useful to know how you should run a website, because technically that is what you should be maintaining if you're on the opposite side of things. But it's at least in my opinion.
If I, you know, when we first met quite a few years ago, and obviously when I was in action on stage, you know, packed out kind of arenas, and not kind of Wembley Stadium yet, but not far off. You know, you come across as extremely confident and competent and knowledgeable, etc. But what you're saying is that you've been through a bit of a journey yourself to get to that stage. Is that you were quite, you sound like you lacked a bit of confidence, and then because of the reaction with people when you first came over into London, it was quite daunting. It was kind of quite. You were probably a bit alarmed because you felt a bit frustrated because you didn't know everything about everything. Is that kind of what you were going through, or?
Yeah. And I think looking back on it, I think that's a healthy response. But because I'm a naturally extroverted person, I mean,
No,
I can choose how I feel, but yeah, I'm a massive extrovert. It's unusual for me to feel anxious about stuff. I mean, I do feel anxious about stuff often enough, but like most of the time I'll be like, okay, fuck it, let's just do it. Like the fuck it method is a very important step in my in my life. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna like shrug it off and just do it. Yeah, and that's helpful. I'm also aware that sometimes I need a bit of a. Wouldn't it be better if you just go for it? But yeah, like I have.
So what you're saying is don't procrastinate, do something, don't do nothing.
Well, it's not necessarily about procrastination, because this is the second part where what's been a very challenging part of my life is, as I said, I mentioned it briefly, but I have ADHD, and it's actually ADHD Awareness Month this month.
Okay.
I'm not going to make it too much about that, but there are a bunch of things in a neurodiverse mind that make it physically impossible to actually do something. Now, some people can, like, it's called executive dysfunction. Now, it's not always that, but most of the time it's like, I know I want to do something and I really feel like I need to do something, and I'll get very frustrated because my body actually can't start the thing.
Right.
And that's really weird and really frustrating. Like, an example, the other day I was like, I have all the things that I need. I like cooking, right? I got all the ingredients I need to make a certain dish. I know I'm really hungry. My stomach is all bubbly and everything. And the only thing that I could do is just lay on the couch and look at my phone. And I was like, I'm hungry and I want to cook, but because the recipe was something I never made before, and it's very, like, a lot of things, I was like, I just can't get myself. I physically can't get myself to do something. It
Is that how it manifests itself then these days?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, I found a couple of tricks of how to deal with it, because I don't take any medication, so there are a bunch of ways to trick my brain into actually doing something, and it's.
And how do you? Good question. I mean, how did you find out that you got that condition or that situation? What?
Oh, this is from years ago. When I was still in uni, I basically had a mentor. Like, they got every week you get a session with a mentor to talk about your progression in school, and she was like, "Have you ever been tested for ADHD?" And I was like, "Why?" Well, because you're showing a couple of symptoms that I think are classic ADHD. Like, you're very scatterbrained. Like, if you're telling a story at the time, back in the days were way worse. But if you're telling a story, it goes from here to there to there to there, and that's true. Like, I feel like if I'm telling a story, and I'm sure everybody who's been listening and has been watching has seen this, I feel like you need to know this bit of backstory, and you need to know this bit of backstory. You need a bit more of this information, a bit more context about this, and then go back to the very main bit, and go a little bit there and there and there and there. It's interesting, but I have, yeah, as I said, I figured out a way of making it work for me most of the time. But the pandemic has been difficult on my mental state, on my mental health, so to say. As I said, and this is not a pity story. It's just something that I believe.
But I think it's probably affected everybody at some degree. I mean, it's just, I think, this thing where you can't spend, I mean, I don't know if you found, but the days are longer, or they seem to blur, and you've got to have the discipline of actually breaking it up a bit. Otherwise, it goes a bit crazy.
Yeah, it'd be yesterday, today, or tomorrow. Every day is Blur's day, right? Now, it's. I'm 100% sure that people struggle with this. Like, I was so frustrated at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the lockdown and pandemic. Like, my birthday was coming up, and I've been celebrating my birthday for at least a week with different people for years, since I was 18. So this is the first birthday that I was at home. On Zoom with people, and I was quite pissed off. Well, not pissed off, but just like sad about it. I was supposed to go to lots of festivals. I was supposed to go to the like some theater shows, and I was holidays. I was supposed to speak at a couple conferences, and everything was just not there anymore. And I was obviously, like, if you're looking forward to something,
how do we unleash the Dom? You see, but you did do something, I think, pretty special this year. Is that you were the MC of a pretty impressive European conference?
Yes.
So maybe you can explain a bit about that, because I think that's pretty impressive.
So the other side of that, obviously, is because when I joined Hashicorp back in May, and a week after I joined, one of the heads of our community team, Melissa, messaged me saying, like, "Hey, would you like to MC HashiConf Digital?" And I was like, "What? Are you sure?" Because, like, I joined last week. I was like, "Yeah, sure." It's like, okay.
Natural selection.
So the thing was, like, obviously they were planning on doing a physical conference in June, like they do. Like HashiCorp does a conference every year, twice a year, once in Europe and once in Amsterdam actually, and once in the States. Now, 3 months towards the physical conference, they were like, okay, well, we need to change something though. So they literally like swapped everything over. They had a platform custom built for the digital experience conference. And they wanted me and Rob Barnes, who is called DevOps Rob, there's a theme here, he was my co-host. So we were both emceeing, and he joined a week after me, and he had the same experience. I think there's a blog floating around somewhere on the internet about his experience with it. It's quite funny to read, actually. Yeah, he had the same experience. So he joined the developer advocacy team. I'm a solutions engineer, so technically we're on different business units, but we're still kind of doing the same thing, although for different different audiences, but the same audience. I'll get into it a bit later. But so yeah, but I know Rob from the community.
How many people would have been on that conference then? Would you say
8,000 registrations?
8,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure. I think I can probably find out how many consecutive people we had.
DevOps Dummy goes global. New hashtag.
No, that was a lot of fun because obviously I was a bit nervous because I have to.
Surely not.
I was a bit nervous because it's like I'm still on my probation, Like I literally joined. This is my first month. I have to yet to learn all the things about all the technologies. Now all of a sudden I have to be the authoritative face of the company for this flagship community conference. So I was like, I love this kind of stuff, as you know. But it's they sent me like they shipped me this huge box with camera stuff. So only me and Rob and Mitchell, Arman, and Dave, so our two CTOs and co-founders and our CEO, they've been sent like a massive box of really good kits.
VIP level, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we had a production company that were based in the Netherlands. Funnily enough, the guy who was we had like in-ears and like loads of cameras and lights and stuff, and there's some videos and pictures floating around on the web. But the production company is in the Netherlands, and that's the guy who was in my ear talking all the time, Jeroen. He's from like it's a stone's throw distance from my hometown, so we know people from the same schools and stuff like that. It was really, really funny. He's like, "Oh, let's go here." So I could sneakily speak in Dutch to them while everybody else is obviously speaking English. So that was.
I mean, the reason I wanted you to explain that, because I think what it does, it kind of amplifies what I would call your superpowers. You've obviously you worked out the kind of things that you like and the kind of things that you're really good at. And obviously other people are starting to see that, even during this kind of crazy year we've been living in. They're seeing your how you play to your strengths and how you work on the stuff that you're still working on, which I think is really good to see. I mean, because I think you are naturally the stage and the camera and the microphone kind of a magnetic. You see out there, it's like everybody knows you're in town and everybody knows you're on stage, kind of thing. So that's the view.
It's funny you should say that, because normally, like if with in-person events, obviously I have quite the distinctive appearance, and people just seem to recognize me for some strange reason.
No, surely not.
No, it's you're right. Like I do like sharing stuff and talking about things, and I did actually say to the experiential marketing team, like, make sure you tell me when to stop talking, because you can give me a microphone and I'll just talk for hours. Now it's an interesting thing that you say, because it's been an interesting time for meetups as well. Because obviously I run the Docker London meetup with one or two others, and it's I was planning for the Docker birthday in March, and I still have 150 T-shirts in my house. Like, let me just show you. Let me just grab one.
Your head's disappeared now.
Yeah, give me a second. I've got loads of T-shirts
Nice.
that have been shipped for my birthday Docker event. That never happened because it was supposed to happen.
How old was Docker this year then?
A bit weird because the thing is,
No, how old was it though? How old was Docker?
7.
7 years old. Okay.
Yes. So
teenager, yeah.
yes. So last year I had like huge cake made, and I actually spoke to the same lady. Same lady was going to build a cake again, and I all had like all the little bits and pieces in place. But my host venue said like, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to do any group things with coronavirus." And then like a week after that, lockdown started. So that was really frustrating as well because I had loads of stuff that I was going to give away, and yeah, I was. It was just a bit strange. Like I'm very much like.
Didn't you have a virtual birthday party then?
Well, between my mental state and between my job situation, my career situation at the time, because as I said, I only joined Hashicorp in May, and I was at another company. I was at Babylon Health. And that was just like I was there when lockdown started, and that was a really strange period. But yeah, it was fine. I left I felt like HashiCorp would have more use for me, and I would learn more at HashiCorp. So that's why I joined them. So not the reason, but basically not the point. The reason why I've done one digital Docker London so far. And the reason why I only did one is because a few reasons. On one hand, I care about creating the perfect event. I care about people. I care about people enjoying themselves. I care about community. I want to make sure that people have the right content in the right format and they feel comfortable consuming the content. And on the other side, there's a social aspect. I want people to be able to talk to each other and to learn from each other.
Yeah.
So these are the reasons why I like organizing meetups. Now, there were a bunch of the communities that I'm a part of that did virtual sessions. Now I am I work for I'm permanently working from home right now, and everything's via Zoom, and that's fine. But if you've been on Zoom the whole day, I personally didn't feel like it would be very useful to have 3 more hours of Zoom session afterwards. And if you are going to be figuring out like, okay, well, I'm doing a virtual event. How are you going to make sure that it's not just something that people can watch afterwards on YouTube? So how are you going to make it engaging for people to watch now?
Yeah.
I have still not figured it out yet completely, which is one of the reasons why I have not done it yet. But I did actually do one digital version in July, I think. But yeah, it's just like I want to do a different format.
I can relate to what you're saying. I mean, I run 4 events up until the half year, I think it was. 2 with London Test Automation in DevOps. You know, the one that London TAD that I run and I co-organise with Shashi and then also Agile Data London. And the what I found though was that to your point, I felt the same way. Is that you kind of got in zoomed out, kind of like just
Zoom fatigue.
Zoom fatigue, whatever you're going to call it. So I've delayed the events for a few months because actually I just felt that it was just how do you be appropriate? Because I think we got to a point, there was a hiatus I think during the summer where just every week there was just so much stuff going on. It just blows your mind.
Everybody was trying to do something virtual, and that's fine because I understand that there's a need for it. But like I personally felt like I wanted to wait until the best format has been figured out. Now we are 8 months in, I think. I don't think this is going to change anytime soon. So I have been, we've been talking about like, okay, well, maybe we should invest some money in like better live stream stuff, better cameras, better lighting. So we're still in process, but it's like if we are going to,
or you do it kind of, can you do it half live, half?
I don't want to do that.
no, well, no. So can you do it? I was going to say can you do it kind of co-located? Yeah. So you do.
Yeah. Well, I've been.
So that's what I've been looking at. So
I've been thinking about that too, like having all the people in the same room and then making a sort of like broadcast.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've been looking at. Obviously, we use OBS. OBS is like some broadcasting software. You can use something called, I think, Skype for Business, Skype for Creators, and I think Microsoft Teams have the opportunity to use one Zoom feed or one camera feed as a network device. So you can use that as you can do whatever you want with it, and OBS allows you to do lower thirds and different like overlays, and that makes it a little bit more swanky. So I can send you the link for the Docker London digital version we did. We had like a little marquee in the top with like hashtags and everything. So in that regards, like we kind of have everything we need to do it again. But then the second thing for me is like, okay, well, I need speakers. I want interesting speakers. I don't think we should do more than 10 to 15 minutes because that will just make people lose interest. I think personally, like I'm just, maybe I shouldn't do that. I did do a survey somewhere.
Oh, you mean like a mixture of plenary and panel and kind of interactive kind of discussion?
Yeah. And we also have a Discord server where people can just drop in and out if they want. So that was quite nice. It's more of a community feel on Discord than it is on Slack, in my opinion. So it's still an ongoing process, and thus technically I'm really busy with work. So actually did
you're cooking up a new menu of how to do meetups then, basically, in this new digital world.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, you kind of have to. You know, it's important to.
Keep iterating, improving, kind of like, yeah.
Yes, because the world's changing, and if we don't grow with it, then it's gonna get stuck behind, and I don't think that's something that I want to do. So, I feel like I know I should be doing another one soon. So if you're listening, if you're watching, if you want to do a talk at Docker London, please message me on Domi at docker.london.
That's Domi. That's DOMI at Docker.London.
Yes.
You heard it here first.
So that's kind of the thing. But it's as I said, that my work has been quite busy. Between studying and because I really want to get that certification over the line, because I'm only like a couple of chapters in, but like I'm already noticing so many things that I'm like, so a lot of things already are piecing together, and I feel like this is almost going to be like plugging some of the gaps that I'm missing. So it's been quite fun.
So in terms, I think what you've done actually in today's episode, you kind of explained a bit about your growth story, about how you've developed your themes of what you've kind of what you found, what you want to do more of, and what you want to do less of. You know, it's really. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm really proud of where you come to. So if you think about where you were a few years ago, and now, you know, I mean, HashiCorp's an amazing tech company. You know, in the Valley. You know, lots of big organizations use that technology. It's very, very progressive as an organization. You know, you've obviously, you know, made a splash already, as I would expect you to do. No, but also, you know, it's like, you know, when we met, you know, quite a few years ago, you know, for you to say now that you're an engineer, yeah, you're probably pinching yourself going, oh, it's a bit like, you know,
yes.
it probably feels a bit
unreal.
Yeah, surreal kind of thing. But I think it's a testament to what you've been doing. And the thing is that because you know your attitude and, you know, the way you help people and, you know, the whole community stuff you've done, it's, you know, it's very inspiring. I mean, I learned stuff from you. I'm like a novice in the kind of meetup space, and I've been helping out and doing a few things in the last few years. But I'm always trying to learn, because it's a great way of, you know, meeting new people and learning new things. So that's the thing, and it's very vibrant in London, as we all know, in the kind of tech scene. In fact, it's more vibrant, I think, in London than probably some other major capitals. You know, even in San Francisco or in New York, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
The Meetup tech scene in London is probably one of the best in the world, I think. So,
I really hope it's not going to change with the impending doom of what Brexit going to look like. But let's not talk about politics.
So one of the things I was going to say to you, I mean, as a way of kind of helping you to share, I suppose, one of the questions I wanted to ask you about was kind of like your pearls of wisdom. So, the things that you've learned over the last 10, 15 years in what you've been doing is, if people are listening to what the journey you've been through, what are the kind of things that you would kind of give to them as a kind of a bit of a guide, a bit of a steer, a bit of a thing to think about? Because it sounds like
got a couple of things.
you exposed something about your ADHD, about your personal thing, about your mental health this year as well, which I appreciate you opening up about that. What would you say in that kind of area?
Never give up, never surrender. No, it's as we haven't really touched on the whole like women in tech kind of thing. I'm actually happy that it didn't go that way, but like there are a lot of people that look like me or are in less fortunate positions that please just figure out what you want to do, set yourself a goal, try to surround yourself with the right people, because that's what helped me ultimately. Try to surround yourself from the right people, learn from everyone else around you. My mother always said, if you are the smartest person in the room, you should try to find another room.
Yes.
It's important to be able to learn from the people you surround yourself with, or able to teach things to other people. Like it should be a two-way street, and don't be afraid of not knowing the things that you don't know. Like I panic
because there are things that I think that that other people don't know. Yeah, that's that superpower thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's sometimes I feel like, oh well, why do people need my help? But at some point, like when people say like, well, you do know a lot about like how to organize an event properly, or how to engage with a technical community, and I don't feel like that's something that is something to applaud. I just feel like this is something comes natural to me. It's easy to me, so I don't consider it a skill. I mean, I do, but you know what I mean? It's not like being able to.
You're undervaluing it. You're undervaluing it, aren't you? But it's highly valued.
Yes, I am undervaluing it massively. This is one of the reasons why I've, like, I don't know. It's. I try to be humble. Maybe I'm too humble. I don't know. So don't undervalue yourself. Surround yourself with people that lift you up and enable you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be here without the support from the people that around me, my other half, my previous companies, my current team. When I joined HashiCorp, I was really nervous that I'm the only female solutions engineer on the UK team.
Right.
So I was a bit, worried, and I did get that, like as a FYI, like this is the case. I hope I hope you're going to be okay with that. I don't really care about being the only one, but what I do care about is, and this is outside of the company as well. I don't particularly tolerate mansplaining. You know what I mean?
Sorry?
I don't particularly tolerate mansplaining. I always try to be a voice for people that don't have one. So if some people, and that's generally non-white males, which is not men in general. It's no offense.
I would say company currently accepted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, you know what I mean? There's some people that like are less fortunate or less represented in the tech industry.
Understand.
Just have
inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain defaults that I feel that should be changed, and I honestly believe that HashiCorp is great in that regard, and they're listening to feedback from the employees, and they're actually trying to change things, and we're starting an employee resource group around neurodiversity, and I've kind of said that I'll be on the leadership team, obviously. So, but yeah, it's like if you are neurodiverse or if you aren't, make sure that you understand what works for you and what doesn't. Make sure you manage expectations to the people around you. Just talk about the things that you care about and be like trying to be a bit more authentic, passionate. Like I have been told many times that the energy that I exude is very passionate. Like I have a lot of energy, and I don't particularly feel that this is the case, but that is how it comes across. I just like talking about the things that I like. So,
it's infectious. That's the thing I was going to say. It is infectious. It's like I think when we were at WorldPay in London, and it's like there was like you were kind of holding court in WorldPay. It was quite funny. It's good. I mean, there's some really good principles there. I think it's good to, because what you're saying is there are stereotypes, of certain people with a certain demographic makeup do certain things, and never the twain shall meet. They will sure go down that route. I think what you're saying is that challenge those things, and you traverse those different channels, haven't you? You traverse those different lanes in the motorway of your career. So I think it's
100%
something that I think should be celebrated, and I think it's something that you should be proud of.
I am 100%.
No, it's good. I think people need to think about putting all those things in the box and putting them away, because everybody can do anything. They just need to put their mind to it, and a lot of the principles you just talked about is something to be something to be considered and something to be important. So thank you for sharing those pearls of wisdom.
Not a problem.
From your spaceship.
No, the thing is, the one thing that I wanted to say about the pearls of wisdom, like as I mentioned before, I was afraid to tell people that I was a recruiter. Even after I stopped being one, I still don't like talking about my history. But now, since I'm at Hashicorp, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, this is an achievement. This is where I'm from. Don't forget where you're from, and don't lose sight of where you want to go. It's always important to have something to work towards. And don't be ashamed of what you've done. Like it's just embrace it. Like I was a recruiter, and now I'm a solutions engineer. Like that's something to I'm proud of it. So
we're now in 2020, you see. So who knows what you could be in 2030. You could be the CEO.
Old.
You could be the CEO of a tech company.
Old and wrinkly.
You could be the chief executive CEO of a tech company in the Valley.
Who knows? So far, I'm enjoying myself, and I've set a goal for myself to learn more about the technologies and do more with the technologies and try to help people along the way. And that's my first couple of goalposts that I'm trying to go past.
Well, I look forward to watching the things that happen in the future, and I look forward to being part of your legendary events in the future, and also learning some tips and tricks from the dummy kind of little book of tricks. Because I know you definitely keep up to date with what to do. So I've got a couple of events coming up in November, so I'll definitely have to speak to you after this session and get some little tipettes for that. But
yes,
thank you very much for coming on this episode today. That was Dominique Top, legendary tech literati from London, originally from the Netherlands. And thanks for being on the show. And this was Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. Have a lovely week and day. Speak soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.